Hello everybody, this is Mr. Storm and welcome to Web Development 2. In this class we are going to focus on two very important topics for web development to take the skills that you learned in the last course and really amp them up so that you can be professional web developers. The first thing we're going to focus on, and mainly the focus of this entire first term, is going to be a concept called bootstrapping. Now bootstrapping is where we take an entire library of CSS techniques. We apply them to our web page, and then we can utilize them in specific ways. Now, the reason why we're taking the full term to explore bootstrapping is because it is a really comprehensive topic, and it's a very quick way for us to make amazing looking websites, but we have to understand how to use it and get plenty of practice in using it. So let's take a look at what Bootstrap is. I'm going to bring over our good friends from W3 Schools to kind of help guide me through this lesson. So Bootstrap is essentially a front-end framework so that we can make our web development processes a lot faster and easier. So we use HTML and CSS libraries and templates so that we can make our stuff look a little bit more modern. Okay. We can also increase our interactivity on our websites using JavaScript plugins. Now, JavaScript is going to be the main focus of our next term, the final term for this class. And so we're not going to dig too deep into the JavaScript, but we will a little bit. We'll touch on it so that we can use things like the modals, image carousels, and other stuff. Basically, what Bootstrap allows us to do is quickly create responsive designs. Now, responsive web design is a very, very critical skill that you need to learn. Basically, it used to be when I started in my journey of web development, no one was looking at websites on anything other than an old CRT monitor. They all had basically the same aspect ratio. There was no worry about, how big the screen was because everyone had essentially the same size screen. Now, people are looking at websites on their computer screens, on their phones, on their TVs, really you name it. The size of screen, um, you know, can change drastically from user to user. And so we need to make sure our websites are responsive enough so that they can automatically adjust themselves so they look good on every size of screen. So we've already kind of covered this stuff. Now there are a couple ways we can get Bootstrap. So we can either download the entire Bootstrap from getbootstrap.com. We can download that, but honestly, it's kind of unnecessary. All we have to do is include Bootstrap from the CDN. The CDN is essentially the content delivery network. Bootstrap is great because it has this, basically it has CSS and JavaScript and jQuery content libraries published online. And as long as we know how to get access to them, we can use them on any web page we build. And really, it's as easy as this. Right here, we have our 3 links to our CSS, our jQuery library, and our JavaScript library. So all we have to do is come to this page, BS Get Started, copy this stuff right here. Let's copy that, and then dump that into the head section of our web page. And let's go ahead and clean this up a little bit so it doesn't look so messy. Okay, so now I have the style sheet, just like I was linking to a CSS style sheet of my own. I have a style sheet and it has the link to attach the Bootstrap style sheet. I have my jQuery library and my JavaScript library. Now all you have to do is copy those 3 lines of code and then we're set. There are a couple of other things we want to do just to make sure that we are meeting all the requirements. So first of all, we want to make sure that we have our HTML5 doc type, which, I taught you how to use HTML5. That's all we've been talking about is HTML5. So that shouldn't be a problem. But we also want to include this language attribute to the HTML tag. We want to specify what language our website is, right? So I'm going to go up here to my head tag and I'm going to type lang equals en. So I can specify that I'm typing that my website is in English, right? Then we also want to specify the char set or the character set for the website itself. And the character set we're going to use is UTF-8. So I'm actually just going to copy that, and I will dump that here into my head section. So now I have everything I need in order to start creating a Bootstrap web page. So let's talk about the way Bootstrap works. Well, Bootstrap is essentially a mobile device first set of features. So it will allow us to develop websites that look great on mobile, and then they also look good on bigger websites, or on bigger screens. But let's be honest, most people are looking at websites on their smartphones these days anyway. So we want to make sure our websites look great on mobile devices. And so we can set the device width so that we can change the device width. We want to set the device width so that we can set the page to follow the screen width of the device, and it will vary depending on the device they're using. Bootstrap also uses containers. Containers are really important. They're really helpful. Basically, we just attach the container class to any div that we want, and it will format it properly for a Bootstrap container. So this right here is a standard container. It has a responsive, it grows and shrinks with the page, and it also has a little bit of padding around it so that you won't have to worry about it getting too full. Or we can use the container fluid, which also is responsive, but it spans the entire width of the content. Either of these are fine. They both look pretty great, but it depends on the website you're building. If you want something that extends to the the full width of the content, then you're going to want to use the fluid container. So let's actually build a Bootstrap web page. And I'm going to talk about a couple of the new text features that we have with Bootstrap. Excuse me, I have the hiccups. I'm going to go over a couple of the text features that we have in Bootstrap, and I'm going to go over how to use this container thing really quickly. So let's first create a container. And this container is actually going to have all of our content in it for this page. It's not a very content heavy page. We're just going to put everything inside this container. So I'm going to create a new div, and I'm going to give it the class of, let's just do container. And again, you can use container fluid if you really want to. I'm just going to use the container class. And let's put some information in here. Let's give it an H1, and we'll say, my Bootstrap page. And we'll put right, we'll put a paragraph in there as well. Let's go ahead and save this and take a look at what this looks like. I'm going to make a new folder here. I'm going to call this Bootstrap. And I will put my website in my Bootstrap folder. All right, let's go to my Bootstrap folder and open up my web page to see what it looks like. Oh, it opened over here. So there we go. My Bootstrap, I misspelled Bootstrap again. My Bootstrap page, my name is Mr. Storm. Now notice this looks different from the default HTML stuff. It's because we're using Bootstrap to automatically give us some basic CSS design options. And again, we can change all this stuff, but this makes it look a little bit more modern. Let's add to this, shall we? Let's go ahead and add to it. Let's see, what do I want to add? Let's take a look at some of the new typography settings. First of all, headings are great, but what if we want a little bit of, what if we want some secondary text, some text that goes next to the heading that's a little bit lighter but is kind of like a subtitle? Let's try to do something like that. So what I can do is use this small element to create some small secondary text. I hope you like it. Let's save that, and we will refresh our page. There you go. So now, just with adding one element. I didn't have to do any CSS to it, and it automatically created this cool like little subheading next to my H1. It's pretty fantastic. What else can we do? Well, let's take a look at abbreviations, right? Sometimes you're going to use URLs in your, or not URLs, but acronyms or initialisms in your website, and you might want to give them the ability to see what that acronym or initialism stands for. So let's do something like this. I teach at, and then here I would put my abbreviation. And the way it works is you just use the abbreviation element. ABBR is the abbreviation element. And then we want to give it a title. So what does the abbreviation stand for? And mine's going to be Utah Military Academy. Okay. And then you want to put your abbreviation here. This is what's going to actually show up on the screen. So UMA. And then in between my abbreviation, my paragraph, I'll just put a period to finish the sentence. Let's go ahead and save that. And let's take a look at what that might look like. So there we go. I teach at UMA. And notice there's two dotted lines underneath my UMA. When I hover over it, my cursor turns into a question mark, and I get a popover or a tooltip that shows Utah Military Academy. So that's helpful. Alrighty, what next? What next? You know what? Let's talk about block quotes. I love me some block quotes. They look great. They're really easy to create. And yeah, let's do it. So I'm going to create a block quote. Okay. And this is going to be kind of a specialized div. This is a specialized container. And the block quote holds some very important information. Basically, the block quote will hold a paragraph that has the body of the quote in it. So the paragraph, and it will also hold a footer so you can say who the quote was from. So footer, okay. And for my block quote, I'm actually going to, let's do this. I'm going to go to the Utah Military Academy website. And I will grab something interesting off of the site. Oh, here we go. Let's do the vision statement. Okay, I'm going to grab this vision statement off the school's website, and I'll paste that in. Okay, and then in the footer, I will say UMA vision statement. Okay, and let's go back to my web page, and we'll open that up. So there we go. Now it's really nicely formatted. It has the vision statement there, and it has an attribution to who said this quote or what this is. So block quotes are really, really cool. Let's see what else. None of the rest of this I really need to go over. So as you can probably already hopefully see, this saves us a ton of time from having to go in and do a bunch of extra CSS work. This allows us just to focus on the structure of the page and make it look really, really nice right from the beginning. Now you will see as we go on further with this how powerful Bootstrap really can be. Bootstrap is extremely powerful, and some of the stuff it just makes this whole process so much easier. All right, so this term we're going to focus even more on design. Next term we're going to focus on JavaScript and making interactive web pages with buttons that we can click and things like that. But this term we're going to focus on making a website that reacts to the size of the screen so that it will look good on mobile and on big screens, and also save us a bunch of time on our design work. Well, that's it for me. Hopefully you get excited about this information and you learn. Definitely go through those resources I'm giving you on W3 Schools. If you haven't gotten used to using W3 Schools for everything by now, you definitely should. It's fantastic. But I'm going to go ahead and stop rambling and let you get to work. Thank you for paying attention, and I will see you next time.